Hi, this is John O'Coral. Welcome to this week's auspicious Agile video blog. This week we're going to take a look at some sticky notes from the Agile Scaling Tour. Over the last few months, I've been speaking at several conferences and venues about the different Agile scaling methods, SAFe and LESS and Spotify and DAD and others. And in that, there's been some interesting conversations with different speakers and participants in the sessions. I want to share some of that with you that I think you'll find interesting and hopefully beneficial to your practice of Agile scaling and using different scaling methods. So we'll start with some sticky notes from the Agile Scaling Tour. Our first one is to only scale if you have to. Basically, Scrum and Kanban and other team level Agile actually can be very successful and elegant if it's used in teams that are not really interdependent with a lot of other teams, don't have a lot of cross dependencies, and can work fairly independently. Now, where you do want to use a scaling framework is if you have a lot of interdependencies, a large value stream or product that needs to be working with many teams together. But if you only have individual teams really that need to work in their own areas, you may be fine without a scaling framework. So you need to make that decision. Now, there are great scaling frameworks that we talk about in some of the other videos in this series if you do indeed need to scale, but only scale if you need to. Second is the idea around leadership. Now, leadership is the idea here that we look to leading alignment versus authoritarian leadership. If we have good alignment, and there was a good talk by Nyberg, who's of the Spotify company, recently at the Agile Tour Bangkok, and he talked about how having clear vision and alignment lessens the need for authoritarian leadership like you have in the military. If everybody knows where we're going, it means that we can make the teams able to be much more autonomous and not having the need for authoritarian style leadership, and that's something really desirable for us in Agile, is to have empowered teams. So leadership, alignment, and clear vision are a great way to be able to set up your teams for success. Now, a third component is the idea of evolutionary change versus revolutionary change. These come from the Japanese terms of kaizen, of continuous improvement, and kaikaku, which is revolutionary or kind of a very radical change. Now, let's look at that. So kaizen, we had a SAFe state case study around Telstra, and there they made some adjustments and changes based on SAFe and the way that they were working, and they made continuous improvement. And this is actually something that is fairly common in SAFe and in other frameworks as well, where we do inspect and adapt, and we do retrospecting, and we make adjustments that are evolutionary in nature. And it was quite successful, actually, at least in the Telstra case study we looked at. Now, we also looked at, though, what we call kaikaku, which is the idea of revolutionary change from Japanese manufacturing as well. And the idea here is where you change just about everything. In a case study we looked at with LESS in the banking industry, they changed the management style, the working style, the titles, the roles, a lot of the way the team worked. Kind of like a tornado changes everything and picks everything up, it really changed everything. Now, in this case, 12 to 18 months later, teams actually and the organization went back to a lot of the way that they had been working, maybe because, like a rubber band, when you pull it very far, it snaps back. But there are actually cases where kaikaku can be useful, maybe in companies that are new and can manage that level of change. But that's something you have to decide for yourself, depending on your organization. Now, finally, we take a look at the use of frameworks as a guide and not as an end in themselves. You can take a look at the video on Shu-Ha-ri earlier in this series. And Shu means learn the rule, coming from martial arts. And the idea is that you want to begin, and certainly a framework like SAFe or LESS or whatever it might be, is a great way for you to learn the rule for scaling and get some good benefit. However, you don't want the end in itself just to be using the framework. So, for example, in the Telstra case study we talked about, they use SAFe as a great guide to guide them, and they were successful, but they used it to guide them in their journey, not as the only end in itself, but rather to help them in their Agile scaling and enterprise Agile scaling and in that journey. And they use DevOps and other techniques later on as well, along with it, to help them to continue that journey. So we want to use it as a shoe and learning the rule, but not as the end in itself. So with that, some nice points that you hopefully will be able to benefit from considering as you do your own Agile scaling, looking at different methods. And you can look at the entire Agile scaling playlist on YouTube as well as subscribing on YouTube if you'd like to continue seeing the Auspicious Agile video blog updates. Also, take a look at the notes for my new Agile Business for Business course on the Adobe platform, and you can find more information there. As always, thanks for listening, and stay agile.